Andy, hello. You're there, obviously. Is it a good enough time
It's
to
a
talk?
time for you.
Good. So, it's been a while, but
Yes,
things have been sort of coming along in various ways our end, and I'm wondering how you are too.
I'm fine. Did some things with Pat, and I'm going to be in the Isle of Wight tomorrow or next week, this week.
Where are you going?
Portsmouth first, then the Isle of Wight.
Great.
Just having 7 days away.
Oh, great. I like the Isle of Wight. There
Yes,
was
so do I.
there was a good energy project there where they were sort of aiming for to be a green island. I don't know.
You,
It had its ups and downs. I don't know where they are at the
you know
moment.
who the green electoral agent of the Isle of Wight is?
No, tell me.
Guy Pulteney.
You're joking.
No, as well as looking after Bristol, he looks after the Isle of Wight.
Oh, wow.
And they got a feeling. This is when I was going. I think it's taken another 5 years. It has to be coming up now. And it will probably go big, have a green council.
Great. Wow. Okay, that's really cool. So he's
So
so he's on the case.
he's been on the case for about 5, 6 years. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I must talk to him about Bristol. He was always when we were trying to develop when we did develop Bristol Power Co-op in Lockleys, he was very helpful. He came along to every meeting.
Yeah, he's good like that.
Yeah, he was he was really positive, and always trying to help us get to the point where we would be able to put solar on council house roofs. Although that didn't happen in the pilot project we did in 2012, but it could still happen.
His great mate was Heather Mack.
Yes, exactly. And she's not just a Lockleys councillor. She's uh, is she leader of the Greens?
No, I think that's Tony, isn't it?
Could be. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course. Yes, of course. She's deputy leader of the Greens.
Deputy leader.
Yeah. Cool.
With the
Yeah.
real power behind the throne. And the person who writes their Green Manifesto.
Well, that's so often the case, isn't it? That the person at the top is managing the sort of public affairs, and
Yeah.
the person behind them is doing the donkey work, making things happen, creating policy and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So it's good. So look, um, I so all this lovely work that we have done in the past has sort of reached an interesting juncture. And it's just in the last couple of weeks, I did a talk to Sarah recently,
Yeah.
and I'm sort of writing up the ideas. With Iris at ResNet, we've spent 2 years really looking at what are the possibilities that would make it easy to do, well, not easy, possible to have solar energy distributed fairly in our communities. Not
Yeah, that's
just,
the great skill is the fairness.
yeah. And, it's taken quite a time to work on it. And now I'm actually looking, I've got a list of options around ownership. I mean, the first thing is that community energy groups typically the assets are owned by investors and they are operated to give a return to the investors. I mean, they're selling the electricity at a discount because otherwise it wouldn't get sold to end users, communities, schools, and so on. But there's
Mm-hmm.
but there's an obvious motivation to be providing a fair return to the investors. Their pitch is we pay 4 or 5% to our investors, and that's better than you get in a bank.
Yeah.
And so one of our first ideas, and it's quite important, is that if we put solar on people's roofs, it should be the energy end users that own it, so that the motivation for the entire cooperative is to provide solar at least cost, not to provide solar as a means of creating a return for investors. So a first and quite important distinguishing point, because when you say we're doing community solar, everybody thinks they know what that means and that it's all good for the community. Well, of course it's good for the environment, but as often as not, it's better for the investors than it is for the end users. And in our case, if we're putting solar on people's roofs on their behalf, we want it to be motivated in such a way as to give a good price to the end users. First point. And then what's happened is the government with its local power plan which is wonderful. It's certainly not enough money to repower the whole country, but it's a big chunk of money to get things moving. And as they announced it 2 or 3 months back, it was going to be £1 billion for 1,000 community energy projects. So you would be forgiven for immediately saying, well, that's 1,000 projects at £1 million, that's £1 billion. So you kind of automatically think, what could a community energy project do with £1 million? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And in round numbers, the cost of a solar installation it used to be over £10,000, but the cost of solar installations are well below £10,000 now.
They've gone right down.
Yeah. And so you could certainly, your starting point is, well, let's imagine putting solar on 100 homes. Where does that leave us? And solar on 100 homes would be 500 kilowatts of solar. So 100 homes at 5 kilowatts a pop, including batteries. And that would generate 5 megawatt hours of solar energy a year. And those megawatt hours, well, are you going to sell them at the current retail price or what it used to be? Or do you sell it at a discount to what it even used to be? Is it going to be 25 pence a unit or 16 pence a unit or 10 pence? Well, even if it were only 10 pence a unit, it would still be £50,000 income, which would pay off the entire million, not just the £700,000 cost of the solar. It would pay off the entire million in 20 years. It would pay off the cost of the solar in 14 years. That's quite good. But you might say, well, let's charge 16 pence, not 10 pence. And then you'd say, and the cost of solar is coming down. It could easily be that we can install 120 or 150 homes, not just 100. At which point you start to get into, what's the word? I was going to say not a downward spiral, an upward spiral, a beneficial spiral. And yeah, and then the thought that came to me only a week or so ago was, well, if you judged it so that the capital cost of the solar was less than your entire project budget, you could afford to bring in assistance, expert help, and you could afford to pay not just the installers and create not just savings, but you could pay people in the community to work on the project. And that it tackles a problem. And the problem is, how would you ever start 1,000 projects from scratch? Where would you recruit people? How would you train them? But if you've got enough money to cover training and support, and if you're paying people who join a project team and you're paying them to join a team that is getting supported, then those projects look like little, nuggets that are genuinely replicable. So so we've been
playing. Have you put that to the government yet?
Well, the everything certainly not at a high enough level, not at the point where Keir Starmer is saying this is the way to stay in power. Although I wrote an article for Labour List recently saying that the political dividend from solar could be electoral wins. especially if you do it in such a way that it's seen to be fair by everyone. If the energy that you generate, I mean, if you're that's one of the complications is how you handle the billing. But if you're handling it through energy companies or doing it yourselves, then you can take the generation and you can sell it to people. You can divide it up between people in a way that's fair, right?
Have you put that to Helen yet?
We haven't had a meet, sort of, right? The person that we have put it to is Michael Shanks, the energy minister.
Well, Michael's a good guy.
Yeah, we had a meeting with him in, I think it was November, and that came about as a result of having been at the Labour Party conference and bumping to him and nobbling him. And he said, "Oh, get in touch. Tell me about your project. Sounds interesting." So he got in touch, and funnily enough, in between meeting him and sending him some background and talking to him, Labour had published their solar roadmap. And the solar roadmap talks about tripling solar from somewhere around getting on for 20 gigawatts of solar to getting on for 50, right? And I don't remember the exact numbers, but it is trebling. And it talks about that being enough to power something like 9 million homes. But the solar roadmap was written by the Solar Industry Association for the government. And on the diagram where it says it's enough to power 9 million homes, it says, and the solar should all be ground mount, solar in fields, right? So when we talked to Michael Shanks, Minister Shanks, we said, that solar needn't be enough to power 9 million homes. It could be on 9 million homes. It could be on the roofs of 9 million homes. And he immediately said there would be savings from not having to reinforce the grid to carry the energy from where it's being generated in fields to towns. And we said, yes. And if you organize it properly and fairly, there would be savings in that people would be buying energy off their own roofs at something more like wholesale price than a marked up retail price. And I think he got that. And he said, stay in touch, keep me informed. And well, there's another party conference coming up. The local power plan is much more upbeat about putting solar on ordinary people's roofs, and gives the example of in Hackney where solar is on the top of blocks of flats, quite tall blocks. So each flat doesn't get a lot of solar and there's not a need for storage even. But it is shared fairly because they use some tech that's measuring the solar and then sharing it fairly between the apartments. And we would want to do the same either with technology or with software. And putting, instead of, I forget the exact amount, but it was something like 2 kilowatts per apartment. We would want to put something like 5 kilowatts per household with batteries as well, because by the time it's 5 kilowatts, you're getting more energy at midday. You're getting more energy on a good day than the house uses at all. So you want to have that energy be available at night. So we've got a party conference coming up. We've got a Community Energy England conference coming up in a couple of months. And before then, we've got a Wessex Community Energy conference in Frome. So we've got opportunities to keep putting this idea forward. Iris and I are writing it up in various forms and presenting it in whatever ways we can, with the hope that sorry, carry on. Your turn.
Now, I'm just going to say, one of Michael Shanks's people, I believe, is Darren Jones.
Oh, right. Well,
now, Darren is the number one guy for Kia.
Yeah, exactly. So, but when you say
he's also Bristol Northwest.
Yeah, and
look, And he supports the Avonhouse scheme.
Yes, but in what way is he associated with the Des NZ as well then, or has he got two roles, one in the Cabinet Office and one with the Ministry for Energy? You're saying he's associated with Michael Shanks?
No, they know each other.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, that I'm sure is true. So yes, we want to exploit all those. So here's the point. When you apply this to what we had been thinking as we developed Resilience Network, was we wanted to do a pilot, or rather we were constrained by the funding agencies. Don't get too wildly ambitious with what you're doing. So we aimed to do a pilot with 100 homes, solar in 5 groups of 20 homes in each of 5 areas of Bristol that are, relatively fuel poor. But now with this idea that you could chunk the projects to £1 million size and be paying people, right? So you could have £1 million project that's actually paying for 2 or 3 people to be working. And what if you said, let's do a project in each constituency? And then you'd be doing 5 blocks of 100 homes in Bristol, not one block of 5 times 20 homes. And you would be bringing in enough capital to pay for, 10, 20, 30 people working across Bristol on the energy project and on other stuff that is relevant for those wards and those constituencies. So
that could be really good.
You'd have funded workers, and this would be not not party workers, but it would be about bringing in a cross-party program that is very much the agenda of the Labour government.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
it could also, if it was beginning to make savings for people, it would also be a very good one, because one of the biggest battlegrounds in the next local election in the southwest would be Green versus Bristol.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that the Greens will like this as much as the Socialists, but yeah, it would certainly. I mean, the Greens in Bristol are not as close to the government and its policies as Helen Godwin is in Wecker, because she's a Green mayor. A Labour mayor.
Yeah, well, I think he would really like it as well.
Well, I hope so too. We've talked to her, but not since we came up with this idea of Well,
I would get on to her quickly.
Yep.
And also use her to get to Darren Jones.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Certainly, Darren has got the ear of Michael Ed Miliband, who keeps coming down to look at the wind turbine. But if they were coming down to look at blocks of 100 homes that have got solar on, that would be, a really great talking point, and something that could be, once it gets talked about. It doesn't need to rely on government money. The point is, we're saying the government's saying it's got £1 billion for 1,000 groups, and we're saying, well, that's £1 million for each group. But even if that £1 million was all loan finance, we're saying when we put the solar on the roofs, it can pay for itself from the energy income.
Yeah, and that's what I would try and sell.
Yeah.
By the way, how's it going in Lancashire?
Oh, lovely. Yes. Well, and that sort of feeds back to Bristol as well. It's been slow because our contact there has had health problems. But what that has meant is we've basically used the budgets from Lancashire and from Bristol to explore the different issues, like the form of the co-op, the form of the legal agreement, the form how we can do the billing, different approaches to optimizing the performance of the solar and the storage and so on. These create, the first time round when we had feasibility study money, it was, can you do this at all? But by the time we were applying for the next stage grant, we'd got Skelmersdale coming online, and we were looking at having a range of options. And we used, because we weren't able to engage in the community in Skelmersdale because we couldn't bring people together, of which more in a moment, we used the funding to handle the technical side of things. And the idea was to be ready for when the local power plan comes in. But in the meantime, Andy, their local MP, Ashley Dalton,
Oh, yeah.
she has got one of the government's Pride in Place awards, which is regeneration funding. It's a second round of regeneration funding. And it's £20 million over 10 years, £2 million a year per Pride in Place area. I mean, it's a colossal amount of money. When you look at what Lockley's, not Lockley's, what Lawrence Weston did with £100,000 a year from Big Local, if you take an area and give it £2 million a year, what kind of regeneration are you going to be able to do? And what we're offering is, well, we can bring in this solar project and not say we need your money to run it, but this can be a project that works in parallel. So whatever else you're doing in the areas that we're looking at in Skelmersdale, which I think is Digmore and Tanhouse, we can do the solar as an add-on. And guess what? Bristol's got one of these awards too, in Kirsty Tate's ward, Henley's and whatever it is. Is it Henley's? No, it's something beginning with H. And so Bristol has got
Karen Smith award.
Yes, Karen Smith.
Grove.
Hen Grove, yeah.
Yes.
Henley's is up north, of course. So Hen Grove, yes, Hen Grove and
Yes, as well.
yeah, Hen Grove and,
Do you know
and Withywood.
And you know who they've just appointed as the chair of the Hartcliffe Regeneration Scheme with government money?
Paul Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Whose great mate, by the way, is Tony Dyer.
oh, cool. Okay, that's really good to know. So I mean,
they were at school together and lived around the corner from each
right.
other.
And Paul Smith had the housing portfolio for quite some time with Marvin, didn't he? Before he and even when he ducked out, he was working on the project up at Brabazon, up at Filton. Yeah. So I it has the potential to all become very upbeat and positive, I think.
Okay, right. Well, I need to go, but what I will do is I'll give you a buzz as soon as I'm back from the Isle of Wight.
Okay, great. Look, have a lovely time there. It's a super place to be. Hope you and Pat just relax and enjoy and have.
We should sort of just do nothing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Great.
I'll
Good.
see you soon.
Yeah. Talk to you when you get back, Andy. Take care. God bless.
Bye.
Bye.